Now, our presentation tonight would be based on international competition. Now, this presentation will seek to investigate the main objectives for a multinational firm with regard to its compensation policies. Also, the main differences in the going rate and balance sheet approaches to international compensation, the key differences in salary compensation for PCNs and TCNs, and whether or not these differences even matter, and also the main points that MNEs must consider when deciding how to provide benefits. Also, and lastly, why is it important for MNEs to understand the compensation practices of the other? Now, the question is often asked, what is a multinational firm? Now, when you think multinational, you think other countries, right? Other countries of the world, not just your home country, but other countries. Now, it is just that. A multinational corporation is a business that has its facilities and other assets in at least one country other than its home country. So let's say your home country is Trinidad and Tobago, and you have dwellings or dealings or even other branches in places like Barbados and Jamaica. You will be considered a multinational firm based on the fact that you have dealings or dwellings in other countries. Companies such as these have offices and factories in different countries, usually have a centralized head office where they coordinate global management. Now, the head office would be situated in the home country, and all the other branches or offices or factories would be considered part of the multinational firm because it is situated outside. Now, the question that we have to deal with is compensation. Now, what is compensation? I could only imagine persons saying that compensation would be the what you get in return for, let's say, mishaps or other happenings that or what have you. Compensation is just that. Compensation can be defined as anything, typically money, which it usually be money awarded to someone in recognition for inconvenience, for loss, for suffering, or even injury. So when you think compensation, you think about giving back or getting back something for your inconvenience or your injury. So let's say you had previously bought a plane ticket and your flight is delayed for hours, then you would need to get some delayed for reasons of the agency or the flight agency. Then you would have to get compensation for that time wasted. Compensation could come in the form of a free lunch or free dinner while waiting on the plane, but some sort of compensation will have to be paid. Who or what is an expatriate? Now, when you think expatriate, what do you think? Now, the first time I heard this word, I was confused about what is this expatriate. So let's go into it and we will find out. An expatriate, or often shortened as expat, as an expat, is a person temporarily or permanently residing or working as an immigrant in a country other than that of their citizenship. Now, if you are a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago and you go to live or to work abroad, but your citizenship is in Trinidad and Tobago, then whatever country you choose to go to, you will be considered an expat of that country, considering that you're not a citizen of that country, but rather a citizen of any other of our other country or home country, as you would call. Now, the main objectives for a multinational firm with regards to its compensation policies. What are the objectives of a multinational firm when coming to its compensation policies? Now, the main objectives of these policies would be to of the firms would be to create a policy that would entirely satisfy its workers both inside and outside of the country. Now, you would want to create a policy that your workers feel comfortable, because once your workers are satisfied, you would always get maximum production out of your workers. Now, the policy should be consistent with the overall strategy, structure, and business needs of the multinational firm. Now, as I implied before, the purpose of the policy would be to have the best interest of the business at heart. The policy must work to attract and retain staff in the areas where the multinational has the greatest needs and opportunities. So you would want to create attractive packages so that, because remember, if you are a resident, if you are, sorry, if you are a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, and you have to leave your family, your friends, your life behind to go to work in another country, then they would have to offer you a very attractive package to get you to leave. So these packages should be very attractive in order to get the expats to go to work. The policy must be competitive and recognize factors such as incentive for foreign service, tax equalization, and reimbursement for reasonable cost. This is self-explanatory. In other words, the policy must be competitive. I mean, if someone else is offering you a better position somewhere, then the policy you want that is being offered by your firm must be competitive. It must be something so attractive that you would have no reason to turn it down. The policy should facilitate the transfer of international employees in the most cost-effective manner for the firm. Now, if you're going to work abroad or out of your comfort zone, then you would have to do a lot of traveling, a lot of research has to be done, and a lot of back and forth. Now, you would want to do this in a very cost-effective manner. You don't want to be traveling here and then traveling there, and then eventually your firm bankrupt just because of your plane tickets. The policy must also give due consideration to equity and ease of administration. Now, this in itself is self-explanatory, so we move on. The main difference is in the going rate and the balance sheet approaches to international compensation. Now, what is the going rate approach? Now, when you think compensation, you obviously have to have different ways to compensate for the inconvenience of having to go to work outside of your comfort zone. Now, the going rate approach aims to link expatriate compensation to the salary structure of the host country. When you think the host country would be the country that you are going to, the country that is hosting you. Now, the going rate approach aims to link you and your compensation to the structure of the country that you are going to, taking into account local market rates and compensation levels for local employees. So they would want a pattern after the country that you are going to. Now, the going rate method also aims to treat the expatriate employee as a citizen of the host country, and it encourages, the saying that goes, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. So they would try to make you a part of their culture and also a part of their. They would try to treat you as a citizen in other words, treating you as equal to them. Now, the balance sheet approach is the most widely used approach by organization, and its main idea is to maintain. It could be considered the opposite of the going rate approach. Its main idea is to maintain the expatriate's standard of living throughout the assignment at the same level as his or her home country. So let's say your standard of living in your home country is a very high one, then you wouldn't go to another country to work. Leave your comfort zone to go to another country to work, and they treating you like, as the Trini like to say, treating you like a dog. They would have to meet your standard of living in the host country that you are going to. They would have to try to make you feel at home, in other words. Now, the balance sheet approach, on the other hand, to the going rate approach, provides international employees with a compensation package that equalizes cost differences between international assignment and the same assignment in the home country of the individual or cooperation. The key differences in salary compensation for PCNs and TCNs. Now, when you think PCNs, you don't know what that stands for. Well, PCNs are parent country nationals. Now, these are the personnel who are of the same nationality as the contracting government or personnel from the headquarters. So let's say Trinidadians go to work in Barbados, the PCNs would be considered the persons of the same nationality as Trinidad, because Trinidad are sending their workers. The PCNs would be considered the Trinidadian workers. They come from the home country of operation, in other words. The policy of using PCNs is usually employed when one or more of the following situations exist. Now, the policy for the parent country nationals has to be under any one of these three situations. The host country cannot readily supply the desired managerial personnel. So let's say Barbados don't have the persons to do the job, in other words. They would recommend it from the PCNs or the persons back at home, in other words. Efficient communication with headquarters is required. Now, if you're operating out of your country, you would have to get a certain amount or level of communication between you and your home country. Now, and also the company adopts a centralized approach to globalization. This in itself is also self-explanatory, so we move on. TCNs, on the other hand, which is third country nationals, these are personnel of a separate nationality to both the contracting government and the area of operations. So let's say these are persons outside of the bracket then. Persons whose nation of residence is neither the host country nor the home country. So we deal with Trinidad and Barbados. These persons are not neither of neither. So let's say Trinidadians and Barbados, the Trinidadians working in Barbados, then these persons could probably be from China or anywhere else in the world. Nationals need to consider the extent to which specific practices can be modified in each country to provide the most tax-effective appropriate rewards for PCNs and TCNs when it comes to compensation with the firm. TCNs have more international experience, as we know. If obviously if you're going out of your bracket from home and out of your bracket from the host country, then this person have to be well educated or have a great deal of experience for you to want to go to choose someone out of the both brackets, in other words. And also paying TCNs according to their home country base salary is, this would cause a lot of confusion. Because if you are accustomed working for, let's say, a ridiculous sum like 100,000 US a month, and now you have to come as a TCN to work under us, then to pay you according to your rate, that would be very tough. Let's move. Now, the main point that MNEs must consider when deciding how to provide benefits. Now, when you're deciding how to provide your benefits, how to provide benefits to persons working for you, that could be a very strenuous task, because you would have a lot of things to take into consideration. Things like whether or not to maintain expatriates in the home country programs, or if it, which does not receive the tax deduction, or whether to have the option of enrolling expatriates in home country. Now, which one would you choose? The home country or host country? You would choose the one which is more cost effective for your company. Or whether or not the host country legislation regarding termination affects benefit entitlement, or whether expatriates should receive home country or host country security benefits. Now, should you get the benefits you would get at home, or should you get the benefits that you would get in the country that you go to work? These things would be confusing according to what is required or what is given. Then you would want to choose. Now, these points must be taken into consideration when deciding whether or not, or how should the benefits be granted, in other words. Whether the benefits should be maintained in home country or host country basis. Who is responsible for these costs? Would the home country be responsible? Would the host country be responsible? All these things need to be taken into consideration. Even whether other benefits should be used to offset any shortfall in coverage, or whether home country benefit programs should be exported to local nationals in foreign countries. Should our programs at home be exported to meet you in the country that you are now working in? All these things need to be taken into consideration when deciding how to provide the benefits. Now, when you think about what are some of the other ways that you would think about how to provide the benefits. If I am accustomed getting X amount of benefits at my home country, then why should I go to settle for less? All these things need to be taken into consideration when deciding what benefits should be given. Now, we have come to the end of our presentation tonight. Sorry, we are plagued with time, so we have to come to an end. Here, this next slide is some references that we took, or that are there for your viewing as to where we got our information. Citation these days. Here you have a look of where the information come. Even if you want to go to get a further read, you could go and take a further read. This is the end of my presentation for tonight. It was indeed a pleasure sharing with you guys.